Hey guys, it's Dustin from Misty Hills. Hope you are all well. I'm trying this here, but I don't know if you're going to be able to hear me with this engine on. Hopefully. Okay. So this is the southern end of our, well, I don't want to say the end, it goes up into the woods quite a bit, but I'm going to bring you around. Here's our corral and squeeze chute system. Again, was here when we purchased the property. We're very fortunate to have that, especially since we're going to start our own operation with cattle here shortly. This is very good to work all the cattle. Vaccination, shots, tagging, branding. I don't know what we're going to want to do, but it's just really good to have that here. This is kind of north or southeast. We do go into the woods about 25-30 acres on that south end of the property. So we're just gonna swing around here, bring you up to the highest point in elevation, which gives us a much better view. All right, now that we're up here, hopefully you could hear me up until now. So right now we're on the highest elevation part of our property. Again, about 89, just about 89 acres. Our home is over there in the distance. We have a little camper set up for my parents actually that spend a lot of time here, especially when it's, during the summer months. My mother actually just retired, so good for her. They've spent a lot of time here this summer, setting that all up, which is fantastic. But our home is over there, just past the house. You can see that western portion with that circular water well trough, which we have shown, and that path that runs through these woods and pops out over into this field here, which is where the cows are right now, underneath that lean-to. We were just right here. There's that bale wagon feeder, the hay bales, Optimus Prime, and some of our implements and some rock piles, some different style rocks. I don't know if you've noticed, but we have a lot of gravel throughout the property, the driveway, and some of the road systems throughout the property. We have a couple of ponds, as you can tell. This pond here is the largest. This is a man-dug pond. It is just over 3 acres in coverage, and what we're standing on right here, this mound where we're standing on, is that pond. So that pond was dug out, prior owners of course, when they were actually clearing this out for pasture and for open fields for their cattle years and years ago. I want to say 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 15. And that pond is what we're standing on. So that was all dug out, bulldozed out, and laid right here. And throughout the property, you can see some really large rocks. Like here's one right here in the field. There's a few more over here on the other side of the camper. There's one right here on the hill, and then a couple over by the chicken coop and the other smaller ponds that came also from this large pond. Now they did this, they kept this landfill, this backfill here for, as you can see, this is the border, right? This tree line is the border of our property. It's a pretty straight shot from up in the corner, which then goes into the woods, and then straight shot down around us and up here to the northeast corner. This is all fenced in pasture. A couple of more lean-tos, none that are enclosed with 3 sides, which we're considering doing actually for this fall. It shouldn't be much, not very expensive whatsoever, just to get some sides up there. But that barn over there is across the street. Those are our neighbors. And from the road, so we can see a car coming here. That's actually my parents. They're pulling in. You'll see them coming down this second driveway right here and shooting over to their camper. But from the road, if I'm not standing here, you have absolutely no idea what is back here, which really is pretty cool. We can be doing absolutely anything, and nobody can tell. No one has a clue that that camper site is there. No one has a clue that there's ponds. No one has a clue that there's that chute system and corral. No one has a clue about anything, and our home there is also almost completely blocked. It's not quite. You can see the very front side of it, and that's it. That here, right here, this yard is our actual front yard, which is not fenced in for cows or anything for that matter. But we have some of our chickens that you've probably seen have free range during the day. We get them in at night, but they don't go anywhere. They like where they're at, so they're happy. Other than that, this is our property. Again, 89 acres. There's about, I want to say 65 acres that are not wooded. Up here in the woods, we'll show you sometime. Beautiful waterfall that leads to a stream, creek, that then leads over here to our third small pond down there. And actually, if I can zoom in here, right on the top of this little strip, there's a windmill, and right next to that windmill is a livestock pond. Very sharp edges, big sharp drop off, not all that large, but that actually feeds some water systems on either side of that pathway for some automatic waters that haven't been used in a few years because those have the heaters in them, the heater coils. So it hasn't been used because the cattle over the last 4 or 5 years have just been, you know, the local dairy farmers and haven't been here during the winter. So that heating system hasn't been needed. But we're working on making sure those all work. Actually, one of the waters I know for sure works, but the basin itself is cracked because there's a leak. When I turn it on, it pumps out perfectly, but then it doesn't fill up and there's water underneath on the concrete slab, which maybe we'll make a video about that when we try to fix it. No idea what to do, but we'll figure something out. And there's small paddock, field, pastures, whatever you want to call it, systems throughout for what we're going to use for a little bit better rotational grazing. We just have to figure out the water situation because we have these oval troughs, then the 2 automatic water systems, and then nothing until all the way over here on the west side of the property where that circular trough is. So we have a lot of work to do, but all of this, I mean, I can only imagine. I don't know the exact distance, but we have 5 lines of tinsel wire, you know, strong, thick, hot wire. The bottom and the top are actually not hot. The top has a white cap on it. I'm talking about the electrified fence. Has a cap on it in the event that anyone at some point wanted to put horses. My understanding is that horses actually use visual a lot better, and they can tell that top line is there, and it'll deter them from, you know, wanting to get up on that fence. We're also, well, okay, so let me back up. So out of the 89 acres, there's about 20 or 25-ish acres that are wooded, and then we have 60 or so, 63 that are not. But if we look at all of this that we're looking at here, plus that front yard, plus what I'm standing on, so the border of this, basically this knoll that I'm standing on, that's not pastured. So that's about another 10 or 12 acres, I believe. So we have just about, round layman's terms, 50 acres of fenced in fields or pastures for cattle or any livestock. The western paddock over there, the small 3 acre field, actually has fencing behind the hot wire fencing, which I'll show you at some point, for sheep or goats or smaller animals, or even, quite frankly, small calves. They can't possibly get through there. It's not quite chicken wire fence, but the square sections that it makes up are only 4 by 4 inches or so, and that's top to bottom behind the hot wire fence. So in the event that we ever get to some other type of livestock, it'd even be good for pigs too, to be honest with you. They can't get out, you know, no way. Even if they get electrified, they just can't possibly fit through those openings. So what you see here is what we're working with. I brought you up here because this is the best view, and we have a lot to do. But the infrastructure, what I was getting at, the infrastructure and the distance of this fencing system, plus the electric that is run under this pond and over to our water pump that comes out of this large pond and feeds these troughs, and the fence, plus the automatic watering system and the underground plumbing, basically, from the livestock pond. And the other water well on the western side, the water trough, the circular trough. I don't even want, and the corral system in the squeeze chute, I don't even want to begin to price that out, if I'm being honest. I think there's 45 or 47 gates throughout the property as well. I don't want to know how much the infrastructure would actually cost if we were starting from ground zero. And even though we do lease the property, and we have, and it's been a lot of fun, and you know, he pays to lease the land, but it's peanuts compared to the infrastructure here. So the conversations that my wife and I have had are, we have more infrastructure than we would ever even consider doing, being rookies, you know, putting in when we have no experience. Why are we not allowing it to work for us and make us some money? Again, we're not going to be, you know, we're not going to get rich off of this, but the bottom line is we can make more money running our own herd than we can by just leasing the property out for 6 months or so. We love having them, don't get me wrong, and they're great people to work with. The family that owns the dairy farm are absolutely phenomenal people. We love them. But a reasonable, fair rate to lease the land for 6 months, which is what we feel, you know, is fair for both sides. I might be way off, who knows? But what we feel is fair doesn't make sense. We can make more, a lot more than what we've been making by running this ourselves. Now, if we had to put all this infrastructure in place, the amount of time that it would take us to get that investment back, not good. Long, meaning many, many, many years, maybe never, who knows? But since it's here, and since we bought the property anyway, because we loved the land, the secluded nature that we have up here, other than that, these folks right here across the street, you can't really see a neighbor. Barely see a neighbor. And we love it up here on our hill. Hence Misty Hills. When it rains, and it's relatively cool, you know, not 95 degrees, in the mornings, this is where Misty Hills comes from. In the mornings, I have a photo that I'll throw up in this video. From our deck up there, off of the living room on that house, the view and the moisture, the fog, the mist, quote unquote, that comes off of these ponds is absolutely gorgeous. Is absolutely gorgeous. I think it was the first or second morning that we woke up when we lived in this home. We bought it again in June of 2022. I came outside, and this is where my photo is that I'll throw up on the screen. I came outside in the morning before work, and I almost fell into that pond because of how beautiful I felt that it was. So we bought it anyways, but it happens to be here. We need, I think it's so silly for us to not allow this infrastructure and this land to work for us. We'll get into what else they've done over the years to kind of jumpstart us. It's almost like we bought a starter pack of property that was ready for beginners because of the grass and the soil, the mixture of grass, the types of grass, the soil. I'm becoming I don't want to say expert, that's a terrible word right now, maybe at some point, but I'm becoming very educated. I'm educating myself on soil and how important it is for the cattle. Watching a lot of you guys actually on YouTube have some favorites. I don't know if I should give shout outs, but Greg Judy's done a lot for me, even though he doesn't know who I am. He doesn't have a clue. I listen to him a lot about soil, rotational, grazing, mob grazing. We obviously did a really poor job this year of, you can see some of these fields up here, and I'll go through this at some point. We cut, and it looks a lot better than the grass that we didn't cut early enough. And I'm gonna go through that, and hopefully that's a learning curve for us with you guys that are gonna, you know, be watching. We're really interested in that, and I think we've done a kind of a poor job, so I learned a lot this year of what not to do. Fortunately, we don't have too many. There's only 23 cattle for, like I said, 50 or so acres, which I believe is more than enough. In the beginning seasons here, we get a lot of rain. Underneath some of this burnt out seed heads, which what we did a bad job with, is really luscious green grass. We have Timothy grass, we have orchard grass, we have long fescue, we have some clover in there. It's good, healthy, nutritious baseline for the cows to eat. And I can tell because every time that we do cut a pasture, like where they are right now, we cut it and then we moved them over, and they were so happy. You could tell how happy they were for this new grass, because it was easy for them. They didn't have to stick their heads down through this burnt, crispy, top seed-headed weed almost. It's not quite a weed, I don't think. Maybe it is a weed, but this burnt, long grass to get them, their noses and their mouths down to the good stuff, the green stuff. So if at any moment or any point we grow a herd large enough, we can actually fence in around this pond and use what we're standing on for some more field. Excuse me, it's a couple of acres. You know, I don't know how much a benefit an extra 2-3 acres would be, but you never know. Little room to grow. And then if these guys ever want to sell across the street, that would be lovely. But that's neither here nor there. So I hope you can get an understanding of what we're working with based on what I just showed you. You'll see probably every inch of the property over time, but you can kind of grasp where we are and what I mean when we say which location we're in, you know, in these videos. So again, hopefully, you know, hopefully we can provide you with some content or possibly education. You can learn with us, and we can go through this together. Like and subscribe. We can keep it going. Hopefully you guys find this entertaining, and we'll keep going as long as you want us to. Have fun.